My name is Maya Richardson. I'm 28 years old. 3 weeks ago, I woke up from emergency gallbladder surgery in a hospital room at Swedish Medical Center in Seattle. My throat was raw from the breathing tube. My abdomen ached where they'd made the incisions. And my phone screen was lit up with 47 missed calls. I remember reaching for it with shaking hands. I remember scrolling through the notifications, texts from numbers I didn't recognize, voicemails from escrow companies I'd never heard of, and one message from my father that made my blood run cold. Maya, we had to make a decision while you were in surgery. The condo's been sold. The buyers are moving in next week. We got you $500,000. We'll explain everything when you're feeling better. Marcus really needed the help, and we knew you'd understand. Family first, right? I played that voicemail 3 times, lying in that hospital bed, trying to make sense of the words. They sold my home. While I was unconscious on an operating table, while surgeons were removing my gallbladder, while I was alone, vulnerable, and completely unaware. But here's what they didn't know. Here's what changed everything. Before I tell you what happened next, please like and subscribe to this channel, but only if this story resonates with you. Only if you've ever felt invisible in your own family. Only if you've ever wondered if you matter to the people who are supposed to love you most. Because what I'm about to share isn't just about a property dispute or money or revenge. It's about 15 years of being overlooked, underestimated, and treated like I was less than. And it's about the moment I finally stopped accepting that as my truth. Let me take you back to the very beginning because this story doesn't start with a surgery or a stolen home. It starts with a pattern that was established long before I ever bought that condo. This wasn't the first time my parents made major decisions about my life without consulting me. It wasn't even close. I need to paint you a picture of my family so you understand how deep this goes. My father, Richard Richardson, is a semi-retired financial advisor. He spent 30 years managing portfolios for wealthy clients in Seattle. My mother, Patricia Richardson, was a real estate agent before she retired. They're both in their early 60s now, comfortable financially, and obsessed with status and appearances. Then there's my younger brother, Marcus. He's 26 years old. He graduated from University of Washington Law School 3 years ago and immediately landed a position at Harrison & Lowe, one of Seattle's most prestigious corporate law firms. He drives a Tesla Model S. He married his college sweetheart, Jennifer, who comes from old Seattle money. They live in a beautiful craftsman home in Bellevue that cost them $1.2 million. Marcus is the golden child. He always has been. And then there's me, Maya, the older daughter, the one who never quite measured up. Let me give you some specific examples, because I need you to understand this wasn't just typical sibling rivalry or me being sensitive. This was a consistent, deliberate pattern. When I was 23 years old, I graduated from Washington State University with a degree in business administration with a focus on property management. It wasn't glamorous, it wasn't prestigious, but it was what I loved. I'd always been fascinated by buildings, how they're designed, how they function, how they create communities. I got a job with a property management company in Seattle, making $45,000 a year. I was proud of myself. I was supporting myself in an expensive city. I was building a career. My parents' reaction? At my graduation dinner, my father raised a glass and said, "Well, Maya's finally done with school. Hopefully she'll find something more substantial to do with her life soon." My mother added, "Property management is fine for now, sweetie, but you should really think about going back to school. Maybe get an MBA like Marcus is planning to do." Marcus, sitting across from me, had the grace to look uncomfortable, but he didn't say anything in my defense. 6 months later, Marcus was accepted into UW Law School. My parents threw him a celebration party with 50 guests. They rented out a private room at a fancy restaurant in downtown Seattle. My father gave a speech about how proud he was, how Marcus was destined for greatness, how the Richardson name would mean something in Seattle's legal community. I was there, sitting at the back table with my Aunt Linda and my grandmother. Nobody asked me to say anything. Nobody mentioned my new job or the fact that I'd just received a promotion to assistant property manager. That was the pattern. Marcus's achievements were celebrated publicly and loudly. Mine were ignored or minimized. But it got worse when money became involved. When I was 23, I saved aggressively for 8 months and bought my first property, a modest 800-square-foot condo in Seattle's Capitol Hill neighborhood. It cost me $320,000. I put down $64,000, every penny I'd saved since graduating. It was 1 bedroom, 1 bathroom, with original hardwood floors and a small balcony that looked out over the city. I loved it. I was so excited to show my parents. I invited them over the week after I closed. My mother walked through the front door, looked around, and her first words were, "Oh, Maya, you bought in Capitol Hill? Isn't this neighborhood a bit rough?" My father examined the building from the outside and said, "You should have consulted me before making such a big purchase. This building looks like it has deferred maintenance issues. You probably overpaid." I told them I'd done my research. I told them the neighborhood was gentrifying. I told them I got a good deal. My mother patted my hand and said, "Well, it's a learning experience. Your first property is always a mistake. Marcus is being smarter. He's waiting until he can afford something really nice." 3 months later, Marcus bought his house in Bellevue, $850,000. My parents contributed $100,000 to his down payment as an early inheritance. When I asked if I could get the same, my father said, "You already bought a place, Maya. We can't keep giving you money every time you make a decision." I pointed out that they were giving Marcus money after his decision. My mother told me I was being petty and jealous. That was the first time I realized that in my family, there were different rules for me than for Marcus. The financial exploitation started small. 6 months after I bought the condo, my father's car broke down. He needed $4,000 for repairs. He called me because, and I quote, "You have that rental income now from your property, don't you?" I didn't have rental income. I lived in the condo. But I had savings, so I sent him the $4,000. He said he'd pay me back within 3 months. He never did. A year later, Marcus needed help with his wedding. The venue required a $8,500 deposit that he didn't have liquid. My mother called me. "Maya, you're so good with money and budgeting. Can you help your brother out? It's just a loan. We'll make sure he pays you back." I sent the $8,500. I was never repaid. When I brought it up 6 months later, my father said, "Family doesn't keep score, Maya. Don't be so transactional." But when I asked if they could help me with a $3,000 repair bill for my condo's plumbing, my mother said, "Maya, you need to learn to manage your money better. We can't bail you out every time you have an expense." I stopped asking for help after that, but they didn't stop asking me. Over the next 3 years, here's what I paid for without being repaid. $2,000 for my mother's dental work because insurance didn't cover it. $5,500 for Marcus's bar exam prep course because it's an investment in his future. $3,200 for a family vacation to Hawaii that I couldn't even attend because I had to work. $1,800 for my father's new laptop because mine broke and I need it for work. $6,000 for repairs on my parents' rental property that they owned because we don't have the cash flow right now. Every time I was told it was temporary. Every time I was told family helps family. Every time I was made to feel selfish if I hesitated. Meanwhile, Marcus never contributed to any of these expenses. When I asked why, my mother said, "Marcus has student loans. You don't. You can afford to help." I did have student loans. $32,000 worth. I just never talked about them because no one asked. The pattern extended beyond money. It was in every interaction. At family dinners, my father would introduce Marcus by saying, "This is my son, Marcus. He's an attorney at Harrison & Lowe, very successful." I was introduced as, "This is Maya. She works in property management." When I got promoted to senior property manager with a salary of $72,000, I mentioned it at Sunday dinner. My father said, "That's nice, Maya." Then he turned to Marcus and spent 20 minutes discussing Marcus's latest case. When Marcus made junior partner at age 25, my parents threw another party. 50 people again. Champagne. Speeches about his brilliance. When I bought my second property at age 26, a small duplex that I renovated and rented out, my mother said, "Are you sure you should be taking on more debt? you're not getting any younger. Maybe you should focus on finding a husband instead of buying more buildings." I was 26. Marcus was 24 and engaged. But somehow, I was the one who needed to settle down. The breaking point, or what I thought was the breaking point at the time, came 2 years ago at Marcus's engagement party. It was at my parents' house. 60 people. Marcus and Jennifer were glowing, showing off her ring, talking about wedding plans. I was happy for them, genuinely happy. I liked Jennifer. She was kind to me. But during the speeches, my father stood up with a microphone and said something that I will never forget. "I want to talk about success," he began. "Real success, the kind that makes a parent proud. Marcus embodies that success. At 24 years old, he's already a junior partner at one of Seattle's top law firms. He's bought a beautiful home. He's marrying a wonderful woman. He's everything we hoped he would be." He paused, looked around the room. His gaze passed over me without stopping. "I wish we had two of him," he said, and everyone laughed. I was standing right there, in a room full of people, and my father wished I didn't exist. I excused myself and went to the bathroom. I locked the door and cried silently for 10 minutes. Then I fixed my makeup, went back out, and smiled through the rest of the party. Nobody noticed I'd been gone. That night, I made a decision. I stopped trying to prove myself to them. I stopped sharing my achievements. I stopped hoping for recognition. I went completely silent about my professional life, and that's when everything changed. Have you ever worked so hard for something that you forgot to tell the people who should have been cheering you on? Have you ever achieved something incredible and realized you didn't want to share it with your family because you knew they wouldn't care? That's what happened to me. After Marcus's engagement party, after my father's speech about wishing he had 2 sons, I made a quiet decision. I would stop offering up my accomplishments for judgment. I would just build. 2 years ago, when I was 26, I found an opportunity that would change my life. There's a neighborhood in Seattle called the International District. It's one of the oldest neighborhoods in the city, historically home to Asian immigrants, Chinese, Japanese, Vietnamese, Filipino families who built businesses and communities there. The neighborhood was gentrifying rapidly. Property values were skyrocketing. But there was one building that nobody wanted. It was a 4-story brick building built in 1922. It had beautiful bones, high ceilings, original hardwood floors, huge windows. But it had been neglected for years. The owner, an elderly woman named Mrs. Chen, had run a successful import business from the ground floor for 30 years. When her son died unexpectedly, she couldn't keep up with the maintenance. The building fell into disrepair. The property was listed at $1.2 million. According to the inspector's report, it needed at least $300,000 in repairs: new roof, updated electrical, plumbing issues, structural reinforcement. Every investor who looked at it ran the numbers and walked away. Too much work, too much risk, too much money into a neighborhood that, while gentrifying, was still considered unproven. But I saw something different. I saw 12 residential units on the upper 3 floors. I saw commercial space on the ground floor in a location that was 3 blocks from a new light rail station. I saw neighborhood character and history and community. I called Mrs. Chen directly. I asked if I could meet with her. She invited me to her home. She served me tea. We talked for 3 hours. She told me about her husband, who had come to America in 1965 with nothing, about how they built the import business from scratch, about how that building was their legacy. "I don't want to sell to developers who will tear it down," she said. "I don't want luxury condos with no soul. I want someone who understands what this building means." I told her about my vision: preserve the character, renovate respectfully, keep rents reasonable for the community, honor what she'd built. She looked at me with tears in her eyes and said, "You remind me of myself at your age." She sold me the building for $950,000, below market, because I promised to preserve her legacy. I emptied my savings account, $180,000. I took out a commercial loan for $770,000. My loan officer thought I was crazy. "You're 26 years old with a $72,000 salary, buying $1 million property that needs hundreds of thousands in repairs?" But I had a plan. I had been teaching myself about property renovation. I had connections with contractors through my job. I had saved detailed spreadsheets about rental markets and cash flow projections. I could make this work. For 18 months, I worked 7 days a week. My day job was 9 to 5 managing properties for my employer. My nights and weekends were spent at the International District building. I project managed every aspect of the renovation myself. I worked with local contractors, many of them from the neighborhood, many of them immigrants like Mrs. Chen's family had been. We rebuilt the roof. We updated all the electrical and plumbing. We reinforced the foundation. We restored the original hardwood floors and preserved the crown molding. The 12 residential units on the upper floors? I turned them into beautiful 1- and 2-bedroom apartments. Modern kitchens and bathrooms, but I kept the original character. The high ceilings, the big windows, the hardwood floors. I didn't create luxury units. I created quality, affordable housing. I set rents at 20% below market rate for the neighborhood. Why? Because Mrs. Chen had trusted me to do right by her community. And because I remembered what it was like to be 23, making $45,000 a year, struggling to find affordable housing in Seattle. The commercial space on the ground floor needed anchor tenants. I didn't want chains. I wanted local businesses. I brought in a Vietnamese bakery, run by a family who'd been in the neighborhood for 40 years. They'd been renting a tiny space down the street and dreaming of expanding. I brought in a small independent bookstore, run by a retired teacher who had $20,000 in savings and a dream. I brought in a craft coffee shop owned by a young couple who'd been saving for 5 years to open their own place. I gave them all favorable lease terms, below market rent for the first 2 years. My logic? These businesses would create foot traffic and community. They would make the building a destination, not just a place to live. The renovation took 18 months and cost me $320,000. I did it on a shoestring budget, calling in favors, negotiating constantly, doing some of the work myself. When it was done, I had spent $1.27 million total. I got the building appraised. The value? $2.8 million. I'd created $1.53 million in equity in 18 months. The rental income from the 12 apartments brought in $24,000 per month. The commercial tenants paid another $8,500 per month. Total monthly income, $30,500. My mortgage payment was $6,200 per month. Operating expenses, maintenance, property taxes, insurance, another $8,300 per month. Net monthly profit, $18,000. Annual profit, $216,000. At 26 years old, I had created a property that generated over $200,000 a year in profit. And I never told my family, not because I was hiding it, but because I knew exactly what would happen if I did. I'd tried to share my first duplex purchase. My mother had criticized it. My father had questioned my judgment. Marcus had been too busy with his own life to care. So when I bought the International District building, when I spent 18 months pouring my heart into it, when I created something I was genuinely proud of, I kept it to myself. I went to family dinners and said nothing when my father asked, "So Maya, still managing other people's buildings?" I smiled and nodded when my mother said, "You work so much. You should take some time off and focus on your personal life." I sat quietly when Marcus talked about his cases and his salary and his life. Because I had learned that my achievements didn't exist in their world. They couldn't see them. They didn't want to see them. But other people saw them. Mrs. Chen visited the building 3 months after the renovation was complete. She walked through slowly, running her hands over the original woodwork I'd preserved, looking at the thriving businesses on the ground floor, chatting with tenants who greeted her warmly. She hugged me and whispered, "You kept your promise. Thank you." The Vietnamese bakery started bringing me bun ma sandwiches every Friday. "For our landlady who gave us a chance," they said. The bookstore owner saved me first editions of books she thought I'd love. The coffee shop created a drink called the Maya, a lavender vanilla latte. "Strong, sweet, and worth the wait," they said. My tenants knew me by name. They invited me to their kids' birthday parties. They brought me soup when I had a cold. They appreciated me. These strangers valued me more than my own family ever had. But I still showed up for family dinners every Sunday. I still sent birthday cards. I still played my role as the invisible daughter. My first building was so successful that a year later, when I was 27, I bought a second property. This time, a small boutique hotel near Pike Place Market. It was outdated, losing money, about to be foreclosed on. I bought it for $1.8 million with a partner, a woman I'd met through my property management work. We renovated it, repositioned it as a boutique experience for tourists, and within a year it was valued at $3.5 million and generating $80,000 a year in profit. Then I bought a third property, a commercial office building downtown. The building had 20 commercial tenants, including, as I would later discover, my brother's law firm. Harrison and Lowe, where Marcus worked, rented 5,000 square feet on the third floor. They paid $32,000 a month in rent. To me, Marcus had no idea. The lease was under a property management company's name. He probably never looked at who owned the building. For 18 months, my brother paid rent to me. His monthly rent payment covered my mortgage on my personal condo 3 times over. By the time I was 28, my property portfolio was worth $7.2 million. My annual income from rentals was over $400,000. I still worked my day job, managing properties for someone else, making $78,000 a year. And my family still thought I was barely scraping by. At Sunday dinners, my father would tell Marcus how impressed he was with his $180,000 salary. I would sit there, knowing I made more than double that from my properties alone, and say nothing. Because what was the point? They couldn't see me when I had nothing. They certainly wouldn't see me now that I had something. My condo, the first property I bought at 23, I'd kept it all these years. I'd renovated it beautifully. It was now worth $500,000. It sat in the same building where I'd bought it 5 years earlier. What my parents didn't know, what nobody in my family knew, was that 2 years ago, when the building was going into foreclosure, I'd bought the entire building. All 24 units, including mine. I owned the building my condo was in. When my father drove by and saw a for sale sign, he saw wrong. He saw a sign for a different building 3 blocks away, but he assumed it was mine. And he assumed I needed his help. That assumption, that constant belief that I was incapable and struggling, is what led to what happened next. 3 months ago, Marcus came to Sunday dinner looking stressed. I noticed because my brother usually floated through life on a cloud of privilege and success. But that night, he looked tired, worried. During dinner, he mentioned that his law firm was going through a merger. The partners were restructuring. Bonuses were being delayed. "We're fine," he said quickly. "But the timing is rough. We just closed on the Mercer Island house." Jennifer, his wife, touched his hand. "It's just cash flow. Everything's tied up in investments. We'll be fine." My mother immediately went into concern mode. "How much do you need? Your father and I can help." Marcus shook his head. "No, Mom. You've already helped us so much. We'll figure it out." But I saw my father's expression. The wheels were turning. After dinner, my father pulled me aside in the kitchen. "Maya, your brother needs help, about $50,000. Just until his bonus comes through in 6 months. You have that condo. You could take out a home equity line of credit." I looked at him, surprised. "Dad, I don't want to take out more debt." "It's not debt if you're helping family," he said. "Marcus would do the same for you." "Would he?" I wanted to ask. When has Marcus ever helped me? But I just said, "Let me think about it." A week later, my mother called. Her voice was cold. "Maya, we're very disappointed in you. Your brother needs help and you're being selfish. Family comes first. Or is that only true when you need something?" "When have I needed something?" I asked quietly. "Don't be dramatic. You know what I mean. Marcus has always been there for you." Had he? I searched my memory, tried to think of a single time Marcus had helped me, come to my aid, offered support. I came up empty. "I'll think about it," I repeated. My mother sighed. "You used to be such a sweet girl, Maya. I don't know what happened to you." She hung up. That was 3 weeks before my surgery. The pain started on a Tuesday. Sharp, intense pain in my upper right abdomen. I thought it was stress. I'd been working long hours on a new property acquisition, a historic theater building that needed extensive renovation. I ignored the pain for 3 days, took ibuprofen, kept working. On Friday, I collapsed at the theater building site. My site manager, Carlos, a contractor I'd worked with for 2 years, found me on the floor of what would eventually be the main auditorium. Maya, he was kneeling beside me. I'm calling 911. No, I'm fine. Another wave of pain hit me. I gasped. Carlos called anyway. I remember the ambulance ride, the lights, the pain, the paramedic asking me who to call. My parents, I whispered, giving him the number. I remember being wheeled into the ER at Swedish Medical Center. I remember a doctor explaining that I had acute cholecystitis, severe gallbladder inflammation. I remember words like emergency surgery and can't wait. I remember calling my parents from the pre-op area. My mother answered on the fourth ring. Mom, I said, my voice weak. I'm at Swedish Medical Center. I'm having emergency surgery. They need to remove my gallbladder. Can you come? There was a pause. I heard noise in the background, laughter, music. Oh, Maya, sweetie, this is really bad timing. We're at Marcus and Jennifer's for dinner. They're making a big announcement tonight. Can we call you after? Mom, I'm going into surgery in 20 minutes. Well, you'll be fine. You're young and healthy. These procedures are very routine now. We'll check on you tomorrow, okay? Marcus's news is really important. What news? He'll tell everyone tonight. We can't miss it. You understand, right? The anesthesiologist appeared at my bedside. Ms. Richardson, we need to take your phone now. We're ready for you. Mom, I have to go. Okay, sweetie. Feel better. We'll talk tomorrow. She hung up. I handed my phone to the nurse with shaking hands. Is anyone coming? The nurse asked gently. Her name tag said, Teresa. I shook my head. They're busy. She squeezed my hand. I'll be here when you wake up. That was the kindness I got. From a stranger, not from my family. They wheeled me into the operating room. The last thing I remember before the anesthesia took hold was thinking, I'm completely alone. I woke up 4 hours later in a recovery room, groggy, in pain, disoriented. Teresa was there, like she'd promised. Surgery went well, she said. How are you feeling? Like I got hit by a truck, she smiled. That's normal. You'll stay overnight for observation. Is there anyone you want me to call? I thought about my parents at Marcus's dinner party. I thought about how they'd chosen his announcement over my surgery. No, I said. There's no one. She looked at me with such compassion it made me want to cry. I'm here until 7 tomorrow morning, she said. I'll check on you. I dozed on and off through the night. Every time I woke up, Teresa was nearby. At 6 a.m., I was moved to a regular room. Teresa's shift was ending. She stopped by before leaving. Your phone's in the drawer, she said. Take care of yourself, Maya. I waited until she left before I reached for my phone. 47 missed calls. My heart jumped. Had something happened? Had my parents been in an accident? I scrolled through. None of the calls were from my parents. They were from numbers I didn't recognize, area codes from across the country. Then I saw the texts, dozens of them, from escrow companies, title companies, real estate attorneys. Confirming sale of 2415 Harvard Ave Unit 3B. Pending close date for Richardson property. Final paperwork required for condo transfer. My hands started shaking. I scrolled to the voicemails, pressed play on the first one. My father's voice filled the room. Maya, don't be upset. We had to make a decision quickly. The opportunity came up while you were in surgery, and we knew you'd want us to act fast. We sold the condo for $500,000. It's actually above market, so we did well. Marcus will get his $50,000, and you'll have plenty left over after we pay off your mortgage. You can buy something else, somewhere better. We did you a favor, really. We'll explain everything when you're feeling better. Call us when you get this. I listened to it 3 times. They sold my home while I was unconscious, while surgeons were cutting into me. The second voicemail was from an escrow officer, confused about why they couldn't reach me to sign final documents. The third was from my mother. Maya, your father's trying to reach you. The sale is happening next week. We need you to call back and confirm some things. Don't make this difficult. I set the phone down very carefully on the bedside table. Something inside me cracked. Not broke. Cracked. Like ice on a frozen lake when the temperature starts to rise. A thin fracture line that suddenly reveals the depth of the water beneath. The coldness. The danger. I felt it spread through my chest. Through my whole body. For 28 years, I had made excuses for them. They're busy. They don't understand my work. They're traditional. They don't mean it. But this was something different. This wasn't neglect or favoritism or dismissal. This was theft. And they'd done it while I was at my most vulnerable. While I was alone and afraid and in pain. They'd done it without a second thought. Because in their minds, I was less than. I was the child who didn't matter. The daughter whose home could be sold like a piece of furniture to benefit the son who actually counted. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I didn't throw the phone across the room. I just lay there, very still, as the fracture line spread wider and wider until I could see all the way to the bottom. And at the bottom, I saw the truth. My family didn't love me. Not really. They loved the idea of me, the helpful daughter, the generous sister, the one who could be counted on to show up and shut up and provide. But me? Maya Richardson? The actual person? They didn't know her. They'd never bothered to. At 8 a.m., a different nurse came in to check my vitals. "How are you feeling?" she asked. "I need my lawyer," I said. She blinked. "Your lawyer?" "Yes. Can I use the phone to make a call?" She brought me the room phone. I called Patricia Walker. She lived in my building, the International District Building. Unit 2C. The corner apartment with the bay windows that got morning light. She was a real estate attorney. We'd become friends over the 2 years she'd lived there. "Patricia," I said when she answered, my voice steady. "I need your help, and I need you to come to Swedish Medical Center right now." "Maya, are you okay? What happened?" "I'll explain when you get here. Just come, please." She arrived an hour later with her briefcase and a look of concern. I told her everything, about the surgery, about my family's calls, about the voicemail from my father. She listened, her expression growing darker and darker. "Maya," she said carefully, "did you sign anything? Did you give your father power of attorney?" "No, nothing." "Did you verbally agree to this sale?" "No. I didn't even know about it until I woke up from surgery." She pulled out her laptop. "Give me the addresses of all the calls and texts you received." For the next 2 hours, Patricia made calls. She pulled documents. She contacted title companies and escrow officers. Finally, she looked up at me. "Maya, this sale isn't legal. Your father forged your signature on the preliminary paperwork. He used your social security number, probably from old tax documents. He claimed to be acting on your behalf, but he has no legal authority to do that." "So the sale is void?" "Completely. We can stop it immediately. We can file an injunction. We can even press criminal charges for fraud and forgery." I took a slow breath. "No," I said. She looked surprised. "No? I don't want to stop it immediately. Maya, I want you to do something else for me." I told her my plan. She stared at me. Then, slowly, she smiled. "Are you sure?" "Completely. It's brilliant, but it's also brutal." "They've been brutal to me my whole life," I said quietly. "They just did it with smiles." "Okay," Patricia said. "Let's do it." For the next 3 days while I recovered in the hospital, Patricia executed our plan. Here's what my parents didn't know. The building they thought my condo was in, I owned it. Every single unit, including mine. The "for sale" sign my father saw wasn't for my building at all. It was for a different property 3 blocks away. He'd gotten confused. The listing agent he contacted had no authority to sell my property. When she'd said the owner would need to approve, my father had interpreted that as the owner of the unit, meaning me. He'd then forged my signature, thinking he was helping move along a sale I'd supposedly wanted. But the sale agreement he'd signed was worthless. It was for a property that wasn't actually for sale, an agent who wasn't actually representing my building. The whole thing was a misunderstanding that my father had turned into fraud. Patricia drafted legal documents. She contacted the confused escrow company and explained that my father had no authority and had committed forgery. She threatened legal action if they proceeded. The escrow company immediately canceled everything. Then, Patricia did something else. She contacted the title company for the commercial office building I owned downtown, the one where Marcus's law firm rented space. "I need you to send the monthly lease payment notification directly to the owner from now on," she told them. "No more going through the property management company. Include the owner's name on all correspondence with the tenant. You want Harrison and Lowe to know who their landlord is?" Exactly. The pieces were falling into place. But I didn't tell my parents any of this. I let them think their plan had worked. I was discharged from the hospital after 4 days. Carlos, my site manager from the theater project, picked me up. He'd been sending texts the whole time, checking on me. "Your family?" he asked carefully as he drove me home. "Busy," I said. He didn't push. When I got home to my condo, I found flowers on my doorstep, from Teresa, my nurse. The card said, "You're stronger than you know." There were meals in my fridge. The Vietnamese bakery had dropped off food. The bookstore owner had left soup. The coffee shop had sent tea. My building tenants had taken care of me. My family still hadn't called to ask how I was. I spent a week recovering, sleeping a lot, thinking. My phone kept ringing. My parents calling from different numbers after I'd blocked the first few. I didn't answer. Text messages piled up. "Mom. Maya. We need to talk about the condo sale. The buyers are asking questions." "Dad. Call me back. This is important." "Marcus. Thanks for helping out, sis. I knew you'd come through." That last one made me laugh. A harsh, bitter sound. He thought I'd helped him. He'd never even asked if I was okay after surgery. 2 weeks after my surgery, I finally responded to one message. "Mom. Maya, please, we're worried about you." Me. "I'm fine, recovering." Mom. "Good, can we meet to discuss the sale?" Me. "Sure, when?" We arranged to meet at a coffee shop near my parents' house. I arrived early, ordered a latte, waited. My parents walked in looking relieved. They hugged me and I let them. "You look thin," my mother said. "Are you eating enough?" "I'm fine." We sat down. My father pulled out a folder. "So, about the sale," he began. "There's been some confusion with the paperwork. The escrow company is saying there's an issue with the signatures." "Is there?" I asked calmly. "Well, I signed on your behalf. You were in surgery. I thought you'd want me to move quickly." "Did you ask me if I wanted to sell?" He looked uncomfortable. "You mentioned thinking about selling a few months ago." "I mentioned thinking about it. I didn't say I'd decided to sell." "Maya, don't be difficult. This sale is good for everyone. Marcus gets the help he needs, and you get to upgrade to a better property." "What if I don't want to sell?" My mother put her hand on mine. "Sweetie, we're trying to help you. That neighborhood isn't safe. You should be somewhere nicer." "The neighborhood is fine." "Maya," my father said, his voice hardening. "We've already committed to this. The buyers are expecting to close next week." "Then, uncommit." "We can't do that." "Why not?" "Because," he sputtered, "because we gave our word." "You gave your word, not me." My mother's face was turning red. "Maya Richardson, we are your parents. We know what's best for you." I looked at them both. These people who'd raised me, who'd fed me and clothed me and sent me to college, who'd also overlooked me and used me and dismissed me my entire life. "No," I said quietly. "You don't." I stood up. "The sale isn't happening. You forged my signature. That's fraud. I've already spoken to my attorney. Everything has been canceled." My father's face went pale. "Your attorney?" "Yes, Patricia Walker, real estate law. She's very good." My mother's voice rose. "You're going to involve lawyers against your own family? You involved forgery against your own daughter? We were helping you." "No, you were helping Marcus, like you always do, like you always have." I picked up my purse. "I need you both to understand something. I'm done. I'm done being the invisible child. I'm done being used. I'm done waiting for you to see me. Maya, my father started. I'm not finished. You sold my home while I was in surgery. You didn't visit me in the hospital. You didn't call to see if I survived. You chose Marcus's dinner party over my emergency surgery. You chose his needs over my literal life. That's not fair, my mother said, tears in her eyes. You're right. It's not fair. None of this has been fair, but I'm done expecting fairness from people who've never given it to me. I walked out of the coffee shop. Behind me, I heard my mother crying, my father calling my name. I didn't look back. I got in my car and drove home to my condo. The condo they'd tried to steal. The condo in the building I owned. I went inside, locked the door, sat on my couch, and for the first time in my life, I felt free. I blocked their numbers. All of them. My parents. Marcus. Even Jennifer, though she'd never done anything wrong except marry into my family. I deleted their emails without reading them. I focused on healing, on work, on my properties. 3 weeks after the surgery, I was back at the theater building project. It was almost complete. A beautiful historic venue that would host live performances, art galleries, a music school. I was standing in the main auditorium when I got a text from Patricia. I have news. Call me, I called. Maya, the office building where Marcus works? I had them send the lease renewal notice directly to him with your name on it. And? He called me. He was very confused about why his landlord has the same last name as him. I smiled. What did you tell him? Nothing. I told him to call you. He can't. I blocked him. He'll find a way. She was right. That night, Marcus showed up at my building. He didn't know my unit number, so he just started buzzing apartments randomly. Mrs. Rodriguez in 3B called me. Maya, there's a man downstairs asking for you. Says he's your brother. Should I let him in? No, tell him I'm not home. Okay, sweetie. Marcus tried for 20 minutes, finally gave up. He sent an email. Maya, we need to talk. I just found out you own my office building. Is this true? Why didn't you tell us? Call me. I didn't respond, but I smiled. Because the revelation was just beginning. For 6 weeks, I disappeared from my family's life. I didn't answer calls. I didn't respond to emails. I didn't show up for Sunday dinners. I focused on recovering from surgery. I focused on my properties. I focused on building the life I actually wanted instead of the one my family expected. My parents tried everything to reach me. They sent cards. We love you. Please come home. They sent flowers. Expensive arrangements from the best florist in Seattle. They sent Marcus to my building 3 more times. Each time, my tenants protected me. She's not here, they'd say. Even when my car was clearly in the parking garage. My mother tried a different approach. She called my workplace, asked to speak to me. My boss, confused, told her I was out on medical leave. Medical leave? My mother said, as if she'd forgotten I'd had major surgery. Is she okay? My boss, a wonderful woman named Karen who knew some of my story, said coolly, "That's something you should ask your daughter directly." My mother showed up at the International District building with groceries. I brought food for Maya, she told the bakery owner. He looked at her with barely concealed contempt. Ms. Richardson doesn't need your food. We take care of our landlady. She tried the bookstore, the coffee shop, every business in my building. They all protected me. She's our family, the coffee shop owner told my mother. She doesn't need you. My mother left in tears. I heard about it later from the bookstore owner, Diane. She stopped by my unit that evening. Your mother was here today, she said. Seemed upset that we wouldn't help her find you. I'm sorry she bothered you. She didn't bother us. We sent her away. Diane handed me a new book. This came in. I thought you'd like it. It was a first edition of a poetry collection I'd mentioned loving months ago. You remembered, I said, touched. Of course I remembered. You matter to us, Maya. These strangers, my tenants, my business owners, my community, they saw me. They valued me. They protected me. My family had never done any of those things. During those 6 weeks, I made decisions about my future. I sold the boutique hotel, the one I'd bought and renovated with my partner. We got $4.2 million for it. My share was $2.1 million in profit. I used that money to finalize the purchase of the theater building. It was a $3.8 million project, and I'd been financing it through loans. Now I paid off everything and owned it free and clear. I hired a full-time property manager to handle my residential buildings. I needed to focus on the commercial properties. They were more complex, more profitable, more challenging. My portfolio was now worth $8.3 million. My annual income from rentals was $450,000. I was 28 years old and financially independent for life. And my family had no idea. 7 weeks after my surgery, I got an invitation in the mail. It was for Marcus and Jennifer's baby shower. A formal event at a boutique hotel in downtown Seattle. The hotel where the event was being held? I recognized the address. I called Patricia. "The baby shower venue," I said. "Is that the hotel I sold?" "Yes. Morrison Hotel Group bought it from you. Why?" "Marcus's baby shower is there in 3 weeks." There was a pause. Then Patricia started laughing. "Oh, this is too perfect. It gets better. Who do I know at Morrison Hotel Group?" "David Morrison, the CEO. You've had coffee with him twice about potential joint ventures. Call him. I have an idea." Patricia set up a meeting. I met David at a different coffee shop the next day. "Maya," he said warmly. "Good to see you. How's the theater building coming?" "Almost done. Opening in 6 weeks." "Congratulations. What can I do for you?" I explained the situation. My family, the attempted sale, the baby shower. David listened, his expression growing more incredulous. "They tried to sell your condo while you were in surgery?" "Yes." "Without asking you? Without even visiting me in the hospital?" He shook his head. "And now they're having an event at a hotel you used to own? That you bought from me 3 weeks ago." David leaned back in his chair. He was quiet for a moment. "What do you need from me?" he asked. "Nothing. I don't want to ruin their event. I want them to know the truth about who I am, what I've built, and I want it to happen in a way they can't deny or dismiss." "You want a public revelation?" "Yes." David smiled slowly. "I can work with that. Let me make some calls." For the next 3 weeks, David and I planned. The baby shower was on a Saturday afternoon, 60 guests. My parents had rented out the hotel's event space, the same beautiful room with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking Elliott Bay that I'd been so proud of when I'd renovated the hotel 2 years ago. I wasn't invited. Or rather, I was invited. But I hadn't responded. My mother had left voicemail after voicemail. "Maya, please come to the baby shower. Marcus and Jennifer really want you there. We need to put this behind us. Family is family." I didn't respond. But I did RSVP. Through Patricia, as a guest of Morrison Hotel Group. I arrived an hour into the event. I wore a simple black dress, my hair down, minimal makeup. I looked professional, confident, calm. David Morrison met me at the entrance. "Ready?" he asked. "Yes." We walked in together. The room was beautiful, decorated in soft blues and whites for the baby boy Marcus and Jennifer were expecting. Tables with flowers, a dessert buffet, people mingling, holding champagne glasses. I saw my parents immediately, my mother in a lavender dress, my father in a suit. They were talking to Jennifer's parents, smiling. I saw Marcus and Jennifer near the windows. Jennifer was glowing, her hand on her pregnant belly. Marcus was laughing at something someone said. Nobody noticed me walk in. David guided me to a quiet corner. "The manager will make the announcement in 15 minutes. Are you sure about this?" "Completely." "Last chance to back out." I looked at my family, at the life they'd built that never included me unless I was useful. "I'm sure." Exactly 15 minutes later, the event coordinator, a woman named Amanda who I'd worked with during the hotel renovation, approached the microphone at the front of the room. "Excuse me, everyone," she said. "Can I have your attention for just a moment?" The room quieted. People turned to look. Amanda continued. "I wanted to take a moment to thank our guests for choosing Morrison Hotel Group for this special celebration. This particular venue holds a special place in our company's history. We acquired it just 3 months ago from a very talented young developer who transformed this property from a struggling budget hotel into the beautiful boutique experience you see today. My mother was smiling politely, not really paying attention. Amanda went on. That developer invested over $800,000 in renovations. She worked with local artists to design the interiors. She personally selected every piece of furniture, every fixture, every design element. She turned this into a destination. Some guests were nodding, impressed, but not particularly interested. We were honored that she trusted us to continue her vision, and we're even more honored that she's here today. My father's head snapped up. The woman who built this hotel, who created this space where you're celebrating today, is Ms. Maya Richardson. David Morrison stepped forward and gestured toward me. Ms. Richardson, would you like to say a few words? Every eye in the room turned to me. The silence was absolute. My mother's face went white. My father's mouth opened slightly. Marcus looked like he'd been struck by lightning. Jennifer just looked confused. I walked slowly to the front of the room. Amanda handed me the microphone. I looked at the 60 faces staring at me. My parents' friends, Marcus's law firm colleagues, Jennifer's family. People who'd heard about me for years as the daughter who works in property management. Hello, I said, my voice steady. I'm Maya. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Marcus's older sister. I paused. I bought this hotel 4 years ago for $1.8 million. I renovated it myself over 18 months. I worked with local contractors, local artists, local businesses. I wanted to create something beautiful in my city. People were listening intently now. 3 months ago, I sold it to Morrison Hotel Group for $4.2 million. My share of the profit was $2.1 million. Someone gasped. I'm telling you this not to brag, but because I think there's been some confusion in my family about what I do for a living. I looked directly at my father. I don't just work in property management. I own properties, commercial buildings, residential buildings, hotels. My portfolio is currently worth $8.3 million. I employ 15 people directly and support dozens of small business owners through my commercial spaces. My mother had tears running down her face. David Morrison stepped forward. If I may add something, Ms. Richardson also owns the building where Harrison and Lowe has their offices. Marcus, your firm has been paying her rent for the past 18 months. Marcus's face flushed deep red. David continued. She's been an exceptional landlord. When your firm needed additional space last year, she negotiated very favorable terms. She could have charged market rate, which would have been 40% higher. She didn't. I saw one of Marcus's senior partners in the crowd. His expression had changed from polite interest to keen attention. Ms. Richardson, the senior partner said, you're our landlord? Yes. We had no idea. The lease is under a property management company's name. I prefer to keep my business private. Clearly. He looked at Marcus. You never mentioned your sister was in real estate development. Marcus couldn't speak. I turned to address the whole room again. I'm telling you all this today because 7 weeks ago, while I was in emergency surgery having my gallbladder removed, my father forged my signature to try to sell my personal condo. He did this without asking me, without my knowledge or consent. He did it because he assumed I needed money, and because he wanted to give $50,000 to my brother. The gasps were audible now. My parents didn't visit me in the hospital. They didn't call to see if I survived the surgery. They chose to attend my brother's dinner party instead. Jennifer's mother put her hand over her mouth. When I woke up from surgery alone, I had 47 missed calls, none from my family. They were all from escrow companies, asking about a sale I'd never agreed to. I looked at my parents. My mother was openly crying now. My father looked like he wanted to disappear. I'm not telling you this to humiliate anyone. I'm telling you this because I spent 28 years being invisible in my own family, being dismissed, being used, being told I wasn't enough. My voice stayed calm, measured. But the truth is, I've always been enough. I've built something real, something I'm proud of, and I did it without anyone's help or approval. I set the microphone down. The room was completely silent. Then, from the back, someone started clapping. It was Jennifer. Her eyes were full of tears, But she was clapping. Others joined. Not everyone, but enough. My father finally found his voice. Maya, we didn't know. We never knew you were. You never asked, I said quietly. You never once asked what I was really doing, what I'd really built. You assumed I was struggling because that fit your narrative better. My mother rushed toward me. Maya, please. We made a mistake. We're so sorry. You're sorry you got caught. You're sorry this is public. You're not sorry for what you did. That's not true. I looked at her. This woman who'd given birth to me, raised me, and never truly seen me. Mom, you chose Marcus's dinner party over my emergency surgery. You told me on the phone that his news was more important than my life. That's not a mistake. That's a choice. And you made it. I turned to Marcus. He was pale, standing very still. Marcus, congratulations on the baby. I hope you're happy. I hope you're a better father than ours was. I picked up my purse. David Morrison appeared at my side. The venue is paid for, he announced to the room. Please continue celebrating. Ms. Richardson, may I walk you out? Thank you, David. As we walked toward the door, I heard the eruption behind us. Voices, shock, whispers. I didn't look back. Outside the hotel, David handed me his business card, the one with his personal cell number. If you need anything, he said, call me. What they did to you, that's unforgivable. Thank you for today. Thank you for trusting me with your story. He smiled. And for selling me this hotel. It's been an excellent investment. I laughed. A real laugh. I'm glad. I walked to my car, got in, sat there for a moment. My phone started buzzing immediately. Texts from numbers I didn't recognize. Probably people from the party. I turned the phone off and drove home to my condo, the one they'd tried to steal, in the building I owned. I was done. 3 months have passed since the baby shower revelation. My life has changed in ways I never expected. The day after the event, my phone was flooded with messages. I'd turned it back on to find over 100 texts and voicemails. Some were from family, my parents, Marcus, even Jennifer. All variations of, please call us, and we need to talk, and we're so sorry. But many were from people I didn't know. Jennifer's mother, some of Marcus's law firm colleagues, my parents' friends. One message stood out. It was from Marcus's senior partner at Harrison & Lowe. Ms. Richardson, this is Thomas Harrison. I'd like to discuss a business matter with you at your earliest convenience. Regarding the office space my firm currently leases. Please call me. I called him the next day. Ms. Richardson, he said warmly. Thank you for returning my call. I wanted to express my sincere appreciation for the favorable terms you've extended to our firm over the past 18 months. I had no idea we were working with such an accomplished landlord. You're welcome, Mr. Harrison. I also wanted to apologize. Marcus is a valued member of our firm, but his behavior toward you seems to have been deeply inappropriate. If you decide to change the terms of our lease or pursue other tenants, we would understand. I was surprised. I have no intention of changing anything, Mr. Harrison. Your firm has been an excellent tenant. What happened with my family is separate from our business relationship. That's very professional of you. Not everyone would be so gracious. He paused. I hope you'll consider this firm a resource should you need legal support in the future. Corporate law, obviously, but we also have a strong litigation team if you need it. He was offering to help me sue my parents if I wanted to. I'll keep that in mind. Thank you. After we hung up, I sat thinking. Marcus's boss had just offered to support me over his own employee. Because professionalism and integrity mattered more than family politics. I wondered if Marcus understood what he'd lost that day. Not just his sister, but his reputation with his firm. My parents tried everything to reach me. They sent letters, long, handwritten pages about how they loved me, how they were wrong, how they wanted to make it right. My mother's letters were emotional, full of tears and regret and pleas for forgiveness. My father's were more defensive. He explained his reasoning for forging my signature. He'd thought he was helping. He'd thought I'd want to sell. He'd thought Marcus needed the money more. Every letter made excuses. I didn't respond to any of them. 4 weeks after the baby shower, my grandmother called, my father's mother. She was 82, sharp as a tack, and the only family member I'd ever felt truly saw me. Maya, she said when I answered, I heard what happened. Grandma. Don't apologize. I'm calling to tell you I'm proud of you. I felt tears spring to my eyes. You built something remarkable, she continued. You did it alone, and you stood up for yourself. That takes courage. Thank you. I also want to tell you that I'm changing my will. Your father and Marcus are no longer my primary beneficiaries. You are. Grandma, you don't have to. I know I don't have to. I want to. They don't deserve it. You do. We talked for an hour. She told me stories about her own struggles with my grandfather's family, how they'd dismissed her business acumen, how she'd built her own small fortune in real estate against everyone's expectations. We're more alike than I realized, she said. You have my blood, Maya. You're a survivor. That call meant more to me than anything else. 6 weeks after the revelation, Jennifer reached out. She sent an email. Maya, I don't expect you to respond. I just want you to know that I had no idea what your family was doing to you. Marcus never told me about the money he borrowed. He never told me about your surgery. When I found out at the baby shower, I was horrified. I'm so sorry. You deserve better. I thought about responding. Jennifer had always been kind to me, but she was married to Marcus. She'd chosen her side. I deleted the email. 2 months after the baby shower, I heard from my Aunt Linda, my mother's younger sister. She'd always been the black sheep of the family, the one who'd moved to California and started her own business instead of getting married and having kids like her sisters. Maya, she said when I called her back, I just heard what happened. I'm in Seattle next week. Can we have coffee? We met at a small cafe in Capitol Hill. Linda hugged me tight. I'm so sorry, she said. I knew they favored Marcus, but I didn't know it was this bad. It's been this way my whole life. I know. I see it now. I see it because the same thing happened to me. We talked for 3 hours. Linda told me about how she'd been dismissed by the family for not wanting children, for pursuing a career in tech instead of something acceptable, for moving away instead of staying close to family. They only see one path to success, she said, and if you're not on it, you don't exist to them. How did you deal with it? I stopped trying to prove myself. I built my own life, made my own family, and I found peace. She looked at me seriously. Maya, you don't owe them forgiveness. You don't owe them a relationship. Blood doesn't mean they get to treat you however they want. Everyone keeps telling me family is everything. Family is the people who show up for you, who see you, who value you. Your biological family? They're just people you happen to share DNA with. If they can't do those basic things, they're not really family. I felt something release in my chest. I've been feeling guilty, I admitted, for cutting them off. Don't. Guilt is what they want. It keeps you tied to them. But you're free now, Maya. Don't go back into the cage. 3 months after the baby shower, Marcus's son was born. I found out from a mutual acquaintance who mentioned it casually. Did you meet your nephew yet? I heard he's beautiful. I hadn't been told, hadn't been invited to meet him, which was fine. It's what I'd expected. That night, a package arrived at my door. Inside was a small blue blanket and a card. Maya, we named him Daniel Marcus Richardson. His middle name is Maya. We'd love for you to meet him. Please call. Marcus and Jennifer. They'd given him my name. I looked at the blanket. Soft. Expensive. Probably from some boutique baby store. I put it in a box, added it to the pile of letters and gifts and attempts at reconciliation that I'd been collecting. Then I went back to work. The theater building opened on schedule. The Repertory Theater Company's first show was a huge success. The art gallery hosted an opening that drew 200 people. The music school enrolled 50 students in its first month. The building was everything I'd hoped it would be. At the opening night gala for the theater, David Morrison was there. So was Thomas Harrison from Marcus's law firm. So was Mrs. Chen's daughter, representing her late mother's legacy. So were my tenants from the International District building. The bakery owners brought their whole family. The bookstore owner brought her partner. The coffee shop owners brought their baby. Patricia was there with her wife. Carlos, my site manager, was there with his crew. These were my people, my chosen family, the ones who'd shown up, who'd seen me, who'd valued me. My biological family? They weren't there. They didn't even know about the opening, and I was okay with that. During the speeches that night, the theater director thanked me publicly. This building exists because one woman had a vision and the courage to make it real. Maya Richardson didn't just invest money. She invested heart. She believed in us when no one else did. She gave us a home. Thank you, Maya. We won't forget this. The applause was thunderous. I looked around at the faces, people I'd helped, people I'd supported, people I'd believed in. This was success, not the kind my parents understood or valued, but real success, impact, community, legacy. I'd built this without them, despite them, and it was mine. Today, I'm sitting in my office on the top floor of the theater building. From my window, I can see the Seattle skyline, the Space Needle, the water, the city I've built my life in. My portfolio is worth $8.3 million. I employ 15 people directly. I support dozens of small businesses through my commercial spaces. I'm 28 years old, and I've built something that matters. Mrs. Chen passed away 2 months ago. Her daughter called to tell me. In her final weeks, Mrs. Chen talked about me often. She said you honored her legacy. Her daughter told me through tears. She said you kept your promise. You preserved what she and my father built. You made it better. That meant everything to me. The funeral was small, just family and close friends. But Mrs. Chen's daughter invited me. She introduced me as the woman who saved my mother's building. I sat in that funeral home and cried for a woman who had seen me, who had trusted me, who had believed in me when my own family didn't. My biological family has given up trying to reach me directly, but they haven't given up entirely. Last week, I got a letter from my father. It was different from the others. No excuses, no justifications. Just this. Maya, I know you probably won't read this. I know I don't deserve your forgiveness, but I need you to know that I was wrong. About everything. I dismissed you because I didn't understand what you were doing. I assumed you needed help because that was easier than admitting I'd underestimated you. I forged your signature because I thought you wouldn't mind helping your brother. I was wrong about all of it. You've built something extraordinary. You've become someone extraordinary. And I missed all of it because I was too busy being proud of Marcus. I don't expect you to forgive me. I don't expect you to come back. I just wanted you to know that I see you now. And I'm sorry it took this long. I'm sorry I had to lose you to finally understand what I had. Your father. I read it 3 times. Then I put it in the box with all the other letters. I don't know if I'll ever respond. I don't know if I'll ever forgive them. I don't even know if I want to. What I do know is this. I've made peace with who they are. People who couldn't see me until I forced them to. People who loved me conditionally, based on how useful I was or how much I fit their expectations. But I've also made peace with who I am. I'm someone who builds things, who creates spaces where people feel valued, who keeps promises to strangers when my own family broke promises to me. I'm someone who deserves to be chosen first. They didn't choose me, so I choose me. Have you ever had to set boundaries with family who didn't value you? Have you ever walked away from people who were supposed to love you unconditionally but only loved you when you were convenient? Tell me in the comments, because the hardest thing I learned is this. Your worth isn't measured by whether your family sees it. It's measured by whether you do. From a psychological perspective, what my family did illustrates several toxic patterns. Financial abuse, using someone's resources or controlling their financial decisions without consent. Scapegoating, the family member who's blamed when things go wrong and overlooked when things go right. Golden child syndrome, when one child is excessively praised and favored while others are dismissed. Parentification, expecting one child to sacrifice their needs for others without recognition or reciprocity. These patterns are real. They're damaging, and they don't get better with time or patience or trying harder. Setting boundaries with family who exhibit these patterns isn't betrayal. It's survival. It's self-respect. It's choosing yourself when no one else will. My success wasn't revenge. It was simply the life I built when I stopped waiting for permission to be proud of myself. Today I'm meeting with a young woman named Sarah. She's 24 years old. She wants to buy her first property, but her family is mocking her, telling her she's not ready, telling her she should wait, telling her to focus on getting married instead. I'm going to tell her what Mrs. Chen told me. Your value doesn't depend on whether your family can see it. Build something you're proud of. The right people will notice, and the people who don't notice, they don't deserve a front row seat to your success. I don't know if I'll ever have a relationship with my parents or Marcus again. Maybe someday, if they do real work to understand what they did and why it was wrong. Maybe if they show me through actions, not words, that they've changed. But maybe not, and I'm okay with that. Because I am not defined by their inability to see me. I am defined by what I built in spite of it. I am defined by the community I created, the businesses I supported, the promises I kept, the people I helped. I am defined by choosing myself when no one else would. If you've made it to the end of this story, thank you. Thank you for seeing me when my family couldn't. Thank you for understanding that sometimes the strongest thing you can do is walk away from people who don't deserve you. Like this video if you've ever had to choose yourself over family expectations. Subscribe if you want more stories about setting boundaries and building the life you deserve. And in the comments, I want to hear your stories. What would you have done in my position? Would you have confronted them publicly? Would you have walked away quietly? Would you have given them another chance? Have you ever been the invisible child in your family? The one who was taken for granted? Have you ever had to cut off family members for your own well-being? Tell me. Share your experience, because you're not alone. I wasn't alone. And together, we're building something better than the families we came from. We're building the families we deserve. Thank you for being here. Thank you for listening. Thank you for seeing me. You're not alone.